Hi, this is Haley Bowen, your host of the Marketing on Purpose show. And today we are going to be talking about the power of no. This is actually a rerun from one of the shows that I host on my own page, the Marketing on Purpose page. But it was one of the most engaging and best shows that we had. So I'm sharing it with you today because I can't be live because my daughter is graduating from elementary school today. So I'm going to be at her graduation ceremony during the time of this broadcast, but I hope you enjoy this. I had some really great guests who you will find out all about next. So I am joined by four amazing entrepreneurs who are rocking it out because they are able to actually say no. And it is a really hard skill. So I'm going to introduce everybody, and we can only actually show four of us at a time. So I have one person waiting in the wings. So we'll start with the intros, and then, hey, Mikey, and then we will get started. Okay, so today's show is about the power of no. And we have with us, starting from the left, Kelly Kerrigan. Kelly Kerrigan is an assertiveness coach. What better person to have join us in the power of no? She owns a company called Empower Me Coaching, and she is helping people pleasers to confidently communicate with each other. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Then in the center, right below me, we have Amy Ware. Amy Ware.
It's okay.
Amy is an independent contractor and travel agent at Click the Mouse, and she specializes in Disneyfications, which I have had the absolute pleasure of going on with Amy, creating our experience, and she's fabulous. And also Sandals and Beaches Resorts, which is on my bucket list. And then we have Catherine Doucette. Catherine is Catherine from C. Doucette Training and Communications. Catherine creates specialized, customized leadership and communication training programs for businesses. She is fabulous. These training programs will help you retain your leaders and also evolve and elevate them. So thank you so much for joining us, Catherine. And I'm going to bring in our last guest. Last but not least, hold on. Now back in spot number one is Leanne Cochran. Leanne is the owner and queen bee of the Honeydews. The Honeydews is an award-winning cleaning, decorating, and organizing company. And Leanne also is a top brand ambassador for Tiber River. So she's got a lot of stuff going on, but she still has time to say no, or she maybe has time to do it because she can say no. So welcome, Leanne. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to, I'm just learning this. So for those of you who watch Marketing Tip Monday, you know that it's usually just me or me and one guest. So now I've got a full house, which is awesome because you're going to get some nice points of view, but not awesome because I just don't know how to run this technical stuff very well. So I apologize if there's any issues on that end. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to bring up, Kelly for this question. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is why? Why is this even a topic? Why do we need to say no more often? So Kelly, what do you think? Why do people need to start saying no more?
Well, that is a great question. I want to start by saying, for the viewers out there, have you heard that saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person? Right? Give us a thumbs up if you've ever heard that saying. I know I have heard it. I hear people say it all the time, but what you don't know is that person, although it's true they will get it done, what that statement doesn't tell you is that person is likely a people pleaser. Their life plate is probably overwhelmed, and they have stress going on, and they probably experience anxiety. But because they really want to connect, they will go out of their way to make sure that they get that done for you. So they will like self-sacrifice. So your question, Haley, is why should you say no more often? Is because number one, if you're in business, you're not doing your clients any favors by saying yes to things that don't serve them. And I have a great example that I can share later. By saying no, it helps you stay focused on your goals and your business vision. And if you're not an entrepreneur, your life vision is going to help you stay focused on that. Yeah. It's actually going to help you achieve more in less time because you're going to wipe out the distractions. And it really sets you up as an expert, because if you're saying yes to everything, you come across as like wishy-washy. So if you specialize in one thing, stay focused on that. So say no to everything else and say yes to what serves your goals and your vision.
I absolutely agree with that. And I talk about that a lot in the Strategic Foundation Bootcamp, because you have a vision for your business. And if you are saying yes to everything outside of what you're trying to accomplish, you don't have time to accomplish what you're looking to do.
Right.
So does anybody else have anything to say on why we should say no more often? No? Oh, yep. Catherine?
I think we have to train, in a sense, we're training other people. As an entrepreneur, when I went out on my own in the beginning, there was this sense that I was free all the time. And so, friends would call and ask for favors, or can you run me this errand, or can you do this? And I'm like, well, I'm on a deadline, I've got things to do. So I had to start saying no, so that they would understand that I was at work, that this not available all the time. It's like, oh, all your time is flexible. I'm like, yes, I worked all weekend. It was flexible. I worked in the evening instead of during the day. Yeah. But saying no trains other people in a good way, not in a mean way, to just understand who you are and what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started out, I wouldn't say that I'm a people pleaser, but I think I'm definitely a client pleaser. And I was literally answering marketing questions and proofreading things and doing this almost every night until like 11 o'clock at night. People were messaging, like sending me messengers, and I wanted to help them. So, but now, as the time has progressed, I actually created some rules, and that you need to email me instead of Messenger, because Messenger is always on. Email you can kind of turn off, right? So, okay. So I'm going to bring, let's put, I'm going to say goodbye to Catherine for a moment. And I'm going to bring who did I bring? Amy. Amy's up here. Okay, so the next question is when? Like, how do we know when we should say no and when we should just do it anyways, even if we don't really want to? Or is there ever a time to do it anyways if you don't want to? Leanne, do you have a...
I think I do have an answer on this. So with my business, I actually have 3 businesses. So I'm very strategic in where I spend my time. And if it does not fit my goal of where I see my businesses or my life in general, it's just a simple no. And, doing so gracefully. But I am actually a recovered yes girl. So I was a say yes and figure it out. Yeah. And it took me a long time to get to the point of saying no. But if it doesn't align with my goals and my life, then the answer is no.
Yeah. Absolutely. Love that. Amy?
So many examples. I don't know. Do you want to go on to the next question?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So what has saying no done for your business or for your marketing, Amy?
So for me, with being a travel agent and being in a specialized field, I first had to develop that specialty in order to develop a name for myself that this is what I do, that I'm a Disney travel specialist. And for me, it's done the opposite of what a lot of travel agents will do, especially home-based travel agents, in that the tendency is to try to sell everything because, you know, that'll bring more business. You can't just pick one thing and say, I'm only doing that, I'm only doing that. And I started out because with a company that does everything, but you could choose what you sold. And when I went into it, I said, you know, I'm only comfortable selling the products that I feel I know well, have experienced, have done extra training in, and can give my expertise on. I don't want to fake it and pretend that I know what I'm talking about just because I, you know, researched it online. So I had a lot of people with the first company that I was with. I remember a guy specifically who's been doing it for a number of years in Ontario, because we were all across Canada, say to me, "You're never," and this was my challenge, and he didn't realize he was doing that almost 5 years ago now. "You're never going to be able to make a living deciding that you just do Disney." And I said, "Watch me." And that is what I ended up doing. And it does take a long, long time to build up regular business. But for me, going with that goal had that exact effect where people say, "Oh, I want to do this all inclusive." And then I said, you know, I did extra training on the Sandals and Beaches product. It's above all the rest, and it really stands out. They really train their travel agents well. I've gone and toured their resorts, and so that was something I said, okay, I want to have one product that I offer as an alternative for my same clients that are booking Disney vacations for their family with me, and then they want to have a trip for two, or they want to try something different. And to me, the service level of those two products was a good mesh. But otherwise, saying, "Oh yeah, I'll go look up ABC all inclusive," that didn't work for me. And a lot of people still can't believe that I just hand that business on to a good friend that's her area of expertise. But for me, it's, you know, through a lot of Facebook online marketing effort too, it's well known that what I do is Disney.
Yeah. And you can be, that's the key thing from a marketing perspective, for everybody who's watching, right? Creating a niche for yourself and a specialty for yourself as a small business is a huge competitive advantage.
That's been my experience.
Yeah, it allows you to be an expert in a certain field. And I did the same with mine. I could do lots of different kinds of marketing, but I'm focused on building brands because that's my favorite part. So I was like, why don't I build a business around my absolute favorite part? But that's what I want to be known for, someone who can help you build a brand worth loving, right? So that's
you enjoy it. You enjoy your job more when you do what you love.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want to fake it and pretend to love doing other products that they're not my love.
Right. Does anybody else have, Kelly, so what has saying no done for your business or for your marketing?
Well, saying no has set me up more as an expert, and it has really solidified in how I can help my clients. So I'll give you a perfect example. I know myself in the beginning, probably like a lot of entrepreneurs, probably like you ladies sitting on this panel today, is that when I first started, I was saying yes to a lot of things, and that has helped me grow, and it has helped me learn what works and what doesn't work. For example, I have a 12-week program that I bring people through. And one of my past clients, she came up with the idea of doing the program, but accelerating it. So instead of meeting once a week, we meet twice a week. So I said, sure. She had, big travel plans and whatnot. And we went through it. And what I learned from that is it actually caused her a disservice, because what I teach my clients is that it takes 66 days to create a new habit. And because we didn't fully go through that 12-week program, her results were not as great as my other clients. So, learning to say no. Now I can say, no, I don't recommend doing an accelerated, taking the 12-week program and condensing it down, because really in the end, it's not going to serve you. So it helps me set myself up as an expert to be like, no, it's not a good idea. And then this is why, and I can back it up.
Love that. I love that. I feel the same way. I did the same exact thing. I took my 12-week boot camp and offered it as like a custom training package. But everybody has to go through that boot camp and brand building before we do any of the execution work together anyways. So I've just made the decision, and it's a hard one, that's the process that I have to take with people, is that they have to go through that brand building boot camp before we have one-on-one, custom coaching stuff. So love that. Catherine, hey. So what do you have, how has saying no helped you in your business?
I think that going back to people understanding what it is that you do. So what's different about what I do is that it's hands-on measurable training. And so I've had requests for people to come in and go, oh, no, just come in and do a presentation. It's like, no, that's not what I do. Or they'll say, oh, just do a PowerPoint and I'm like, no, this is what I know is effective and this is what works. And so what I do, I can send you to some other people I know that do that. But what I do is create hands-on training with measurable results. And if you skip some of those steps, then how do you know your training work? And how do I create the best training for you? Because it's all customized to what your employees need and what their skills gaps are. So saying no, it's scary, especially in the beginning, because in the first few years you're looking at cash flow. But it's amazing how the more you say no, the more of what you do want comes in. Mm-hmm. And so now I have awesome clients who are committed to investing in their employees. And, I usually end up being friends with my clients because I love what I do. And we have the same values when it comes to training and to helping people and helping organizations be better.
Yeah. And I think that's similar to what Kelly and I were saying, in that you are the expert and you know the process. So a lot of times people want to skip steps, and that is one area where saying no can be really detrimental to the results that you can get at the end.
Definitely.
Right? Definitely. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to just put Amy down for a moment. This is so weird. Okay, and Leanne's popping up. Here we go. Hey, Leanne.
Hi. So, Haley, I wanted to, as Catherine was just speaking there, I was reminded of a very recent conversation I had from an organization. I am the only certified organizational specialist in the Maritimes. So I'm getting a lot of requests to come in and talk to groups on what that means and how we can help them in their homes. And for the first few of those presentations, I did do for free. So the email came in and I told the client, this is my rate to do that. And the client says, oh, we don't have a budget. I said, oh, no problem on that. I wish you well. And a week later, miraculously, they have a budget. Wow. So it just was so it was the power of saying no and looking at the cash flow and looking at the investment of my time and energy and effort. And so then it turned around, and Catherine just reminded me of that story. And that was actually quite recent as well.
Yeah, I think that's one spot where entrepreneurs tend to really miss the ball in saying yes to doing things for free, especially when they're starting out, right? Because you want to build up your reputation. And there are some cases where, if you're completely new, you have no testimonials, you have no referrals, you've got no clients, you're going to need to maybe do some work for free. Maybe. I did 4 boot camps for people for free when I started out my business, because I needed to check the process, right? And make sure that it got the results and make sure they were happy and all of that stuff makes sense. But once you get a little further down the road, you've got to say no, because you don't have time to do the stuff you need to do if you're doing everything for free. Mm-hmm. Love that. Okay, so let's move on to what incident or trigger. I love this question. This is story time. So what incident or trigger made you first start to say no more often? Because I've had one recently that I was like, finally, I'm starting to say no a little bit more often in my business. And I know that you guys have as well. So why don't we start with Catherine, and then maybe we'll go to Leanne and Kelly and Amy. If you have any stories to tell, you can. So let's start with Catherine.
I was in a position probably the second year of my business where I had booked myself so heavily that I was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, working till about 6 or 7, driving to wherever I was training for the day, driving home, working till midnight, hoping to get a nap, repeat. And,
anybody relate to that?
Yeah.
You must have loved if you could relate to that.
And so it's both around the time that I met my husband, and I always say my husband is here, so I didn't go totally crazy, because every time I took on a new project, because I really loved the work that was coming to me, he would say, so how many hours are you going to have off this weekend? And somehow I just thought that I could keep going and keep going. And I'll never forget, it was December 13th was my very last day of training, because that's when training usually tends to shut down. And then I used the time before Christmas to work on my business. And December 13th came. It was an awesome training with a great client at their annual general meeting. I was driving home thinking of all these plans I was going to do. And when I got up the next morning, I couldn't spell my own name. And my husband and I had a long conversation about how cranky I was at home. The clients were getting the best of me. Mm-hmm. And I was a witch with another consonant at the beginning at home. And so we just started talking about that. And I thought, oh my God, he's right. Because I could feel myself overreacting to things at home, and the clients were getting the best of me. So in order to have a good business and to always offer a quality product and to always give my best, but I run a business because I love what I do. I should love what I do home too. So there was a balance in that. And that's when I started saying no. And that's when I became better at going, no, this is actually how long this takes to do. So this is how much time I'm blocking off for it. So I'm getting better. We wouldn't say I'm perfect at it, but I'm getting better. I love what I do, and saying no is a process, but it comes more and more easily the more that I do it.
Yeah, it's like a muscle that you have to flex it a lot and work it a lot to be better at it. And I am definitely a victim to that too. Okay, let's see here. Let's do this. Hey, Leanne.
Hello.
So I know you have a really good story too of what made you start, impactful story, I guess, of what made you start say no more often. Let's hear that.
So I actually have two. And the first one was actually within my first month of business. I was driving down the highway and had a mini stroke. Oh. And that was stress that had accumulated in my body. And so that slowed me down a little bit. But within 2 years of that, so 2 years ago now, I was actually hospitalized due to a nervous breakdown. And it was an accumulation of just being that yes girl, of saying yes and figuring it out. And much like Catherine, pulling, 16 and 18-hour days and thinking that was normal. It was having an effect on my family. It was having an effect on every relationship. And it was most certainly having an effect on me. And I didn't see it until it was really nearly too late. So I did spend 10 days in the psychiatric unit at the St. John Regional Hospital, which is not a great place to be, and said to my husband, will you bring in my agenda, and he looked at me and he said, you really don't get what's going on here. Wow. And I didn't. So I worked with occupational therapists and psychologists to really look at the power of what you're doing today, the power of saying no and setting boundaries, which to me looked like turning my phone off, my business phone off, My hours are 9 to 5. I no longer respond to emails after that time. I no longer respond to phone calls or any of those reach outs that come, because I have boundaries, and I've been able to improve my health. I've been able to improve my mental health. I've been able to improve the relationships that I have with family and friends. You know, and it didn't happen overnight. And I can tell you from one entrepreneur to another, it is not a place you want to go. So really working on those boundaries has been key to me, and learning to say no. And then it's not a bad word. So
Yeah,
that's a bit about where I've been. Yeah.
That is very impactful. So I'm hoping that everybody who is listening takes that into account, because just a sec, I'm going to make me a little bit bigger too. You know, we talk so much about growing our business at Marketing on Purpose, and we talk about it in the DIY group. But there's nothing more important than you guys and your health. So thank you so much for sharing. Look at me. Gosh. Thank you so much.
Me too. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. Okay. So I'm going to bring Amy back, because we miss Amy. Hold on. Let's see. I don't know who I'm putting out and in all this time here. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to move on to our next question. And Amy, it is for you first. So this is Marketing Tip Monday. So we need to give some tips for people. I think people and all the viewers probably get how important it is to say no, both from a mental health point of view, as well as, you know, having the time to work on the things that matter in your business. If you say yes to everything, you're not working on the things that are actually going to matter and move the needle for you in your business. So let's give some tips on how, because saying no is hard. It's hard. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give all of my guests a chance to give you a tip or two on how they're saying no and what's making it a little bit easier for them. So, Amy.
Can I just add to Leanne? And
yes,
absolutely. I love that she mentioned she worked with an occupational therapist, because that's what I used to do. And people laugh because they think that there's no connection between a travel agent and an occupational therapist. And normally there wouldn't be, perhaps. But for me, I use a lot of those skills for myself and remind myself, I know this. I worked in mental health. I know what I have to do. But it's still very hard when it's yourself in it, and you love what you do, and you have this, you know, business venture that's more like a hobby and something that you have trouble saying no to yourself because you love it. Anyways, I can relate to that, but that's really cool. She mentioned occupational therapy. But I still am struggling with setting the regular hours, and it's a little different in that I do have to monitor my email for when I have people traveling and things come up, and it's not too often that they need me. And I have, on that note, learned how to send them a list of things and people they should talk with if certain things should happen in their travels, rather than thinking that they need to call me at any hour of the day or night. I'm not available 24/7, but I do try to be available. And I did have an incident on Good Friday, and I had to make myself available to sort it out for a client that was already there at Disney. But back to the saying no, something that I decided to do a couple of years ago, because I get a lot of business from Facebook, and I know Haley and Erica talked about this recently, people messaging you constantly, and I call it, someone referred to another travel agent as messaging purgatory. When you answer a message and they keep messaging you back, and it's really hard to draw boundaries. They see that you're online, and so they see, you know, how you happen to check something on your page at 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and so they start messaging you, and then they know you saw it, so you have to respond.
Yeah.
So it was about almost 3 years ago now, I think. I figured out how to turn messaging option off for my business page, and I'm so glad I did that. Once in a while, I'll get people sending me a request on my personal Facebook, and I prefer they don't do that. And I try to make it well known that my email is amy@clickthemouse.ca. Please send me an email. And it is best to have, we all should have a paper track record of all of our conversations. And you told me this, you told me that. And email is so much better for that anyway. But email, people will send an email and not expect you to answer at midnight on a Saturday night. But if they send you a message, they have that open access to you. So I thought it might hurt my business, but I can attest that it hasn't whatsoever. So that's just something I recommend considering is don't allow the Facebook messaging on your business page.
Yeah, and what I find with that too is I will always respond to a Facebook Messenger, but I might say I'll get back to you tomorrow. Just out of courtesy, right? So they know that I saw it. But my fear is that I'm going to forget.
And that response time.
And I'm like in bed or, watching a show or being with my family. And I don't want to stop everything, jot down a note to help, that I have to do something. So I do think like for business, email and the trail too is really, really good.
Yeah.
Erica says, just in the comments, where does that show up? Look at that. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Use an auto reply as well and set the standard. Yeah.
Yes.
You can set that up pretty easily. So awesome. Great tip. Okay. So let's go to, okay. Kelly.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey. So my tip for everybody today in saying no is be clear. Be clear. So let me explain that, because in your mind, you might be thinking, no, I'm not doing that. However, what comes out of your mouth is, oh, it's not a good time for me right now. So what other people hear is, oh, maybe, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps next week, right? So they're hearing, so there's a chance. I mean, if you think of the Dumb and Dumber movie, right? What's the chance of that you're going to go out with me? More like 1 in a million. Yes, so there is a chance, right? That's what people hear. So be very clear in when you say no, say no. Don't, keep leading people on because they will remember that. If they really want you to do something, they will hold you accountable and they will follow up and they will come back. And what will happen is if you are not clear, you're going to get annoyed, and that could cause friction and tension in the friendship, relationship, business relationship. Yeah. So that is my tip. I'm just going to put it up again. Be clear.
Yeah, I love that.
Communication.
How do you be clear without being mean though?
Well, it's just very, I mean, really, it's depending on the situation, but it's simply saying, acknowledge first, thank you for asking, basically just acknowledge. And then whatever the reason is, maybe you could say, you know what, it's not a good time in my business right now. To be honest, here's a perfect example. Is I was asked to do a speaking engagement or, to put an application in for a speaking engagement, but the application process was like really, really short and it was adding more stress on me. And, I simply came back and said, thank you for the opportunity. However, it's not a good time in my business right now. That's not my focus right now. Perhaps we can revisit it in the future, because I was honest, I would like to revisit that in the future. But at that time, it was just putting way too much stress on me. And then I had other things that I wanted to accomplish. So it's just being honest, really, because that's what you owe people. You owe people your honesty. You can't be responsible for how other people take it. You can only be responsible for yourself and your honesty. And in the end, people appreciate honesty.
Yeah. And I don't always think that this is where I struggle, is I always feel like I have to give somebody a reason, right, to say no. But I actually don't think that you do. Do you?
I mean, that all comes with personal, on personality. Because you hear like no is a complete sentence. Now, my personality, because I am so heart-centered, and my major thing is connection. So for me, if I just said, no, I'm not doing it, that to me, that comes across as cold, and it doesn't fit who I am and my personality. Whereas some people that works really well for, so right. I will not like give an excuse, but just be like, it doesn't work for me, or, whatever. Like, I will not give an excuse, because sometimes giving an excuse gives the other person more ammunition to dig a little deeper to kind of get you to say yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you feel sometimes that you need to give a reason, that's totally okay, because we're all different. We're all unique. We all have different personalities. And I feel my most authentic self when I'm communicating and connecting. So if that is giving them a reason, then that works for me. But some people it may not work for.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. All right. So I'll give you
Haley, can I just add something?
Yes, absolutely.
Haley, I'd like to add something there for me, and it depends what the request is, but I feel that we have lost the communication and the skill set of picking up telephone. So for me, quite often, I will reach out to that individual, again, depending on what the request is, and because I just find you can read a tone in an email or a text message or a Facebook message. So I'll just pick up the phone and let them know that, whatever the reason of no is, so that they understand. And sometimes I give a reason and sometimes I don't, but that they understand the tone, behind what I am saying. And, but yeah, I'm not apologetic about saying no. Again, it did take me some time to get there, but I'm not apologetic about saying that now. And it's very liberating. And if it doesn't align with the goals of my business and my life and my family, the answer is no.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Do you have, while you're up enlarged on the screen, do you have a tip for helping people to say no? Just, is it that?
So I have a tip. So one of them, and Eric actually mentioned it, is that I have a bot. I think that's what it's called.
Yep.
Not very technical, but I have that message that comes up that, that gives me some time to look at that I'm not responding right away. But in terms of saying no, just do it. It's like that old Nike saying, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, it is so liberating. It's so liberating.
I do wonder if men struggle with this as much. I think as women, we're always putting so much onto our plates, and it's okay to say no.
Yeah, you have to. We can't do everything. So, okay. Mm-hmm. So, Catherine, let's see here. Woo. There we go. So, communication and leadership expert, really, trainer. What can you give us for tips on how to say no?
I focus on what I can do whenever possible. So if somebody says, I need this by X, by this date, then I'll say, well, what I can do is I can give it to you, in 6 weeks, or what I can do is. And so I focus on what I can do for them and how I can help.
Okay.
Because I don't want to start with no if I don't have to. So let's talk about what I can do for the client, and let's talk about where we can go, or if a friend is making a request and they want me to come help with something, maybe they're having, computer issues or whatever, I'll just say what I can do is, how about Monday night instead of Saturday? Or what about, right. So I think when we do that, we're trying to resolve the issue, and sometimes I have to say, if something's totally out of anything that I'm interested in doing or anything that I have time to do, then I just have to say, no, I'm booked.
Right.
And that goes for now. What I've learned is my breaks are booked, and the breaks need to be as sacred as the client time. And so if I'm booked, I don't have to say when I'm booked with, I'm just booked.
So now we all know, if Catherine says she's booked, you should push harder.
And then I'm going to send you to Haley.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't do that to her. All right. Awesome. Amy, did you give a comment on this? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Perfect. So that was sort of the big questions I had. So if you are watching us today and have any questions for anybody who is sitting on the panel here today, please put them in the comments. If you have any tips that can help us, because honestly, I know how I'm sort of the no person. If it has to do with my business or my brand, and it's going to be not in alignment with, you know, my vision or my brand, I'm very easy to say no. But if it has to do with helping somebody else, I have a really hard time saying no. So if anybody who is watching has any other tips for people like me who does find it difficult to say no, even though I know there's so much power in it, throw them in the comments and we will answer any questions that you have. I'm going to bring Amy back. Hold on here. Let's see. Perfect. Hey, Amy. I wish we could all fit on the screen together. So let's see. We've got a couple comments here, so I'm just going to throw them up. So Lisa says, I have an automatic reply on my Facebook biz page that says I'll get back to them in 24 hours. Yeah, that's smart. 24 hours is a lot of time. And I don't know. I like that. I think maybe I should turn a bot on too.
That's great. I didn't know Facebook business page did that, so I just learned something new.
Oh, it's easy. I'll show you.
Excellent.
And I did do that. I did try that for a while before I decided to go cold turkey on messaging altogether.
Yeah.
But it was my own boundary that I found that I just couldn't resist responding. And also people start giving me the information, and it's so much easier and better for business to have all that information in an email that I can search than to have to go flipping through Facebook messages. So I just decided for tracking, it was far easier. Plus, Facebook has glitches, as we all know now and then, and you don't always get all your notifications.
Yeah,
which is
that's
an
true.
issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so the thing I would say about the bot on Facebook is it is definitely a good way to control your time. It depends on the kind of business you have. So Amy has a business where she's got clients who are constantly going to be asking her questions, especially while they're traveling, I would assume. Whereas
Not
me,
as many as you'd think.
what's that?
Not as many as you'd think. And I actually had this conversation with my colleague this weekend because she puts in her, you know, I always do like have a magical stay email, last minute reminders before people go.
Yeah.
And she has in there, remember, you can contact me at any time. And I don't put that in there. I direct them to who to deal with when they're traveling. So they take charge of their own trip. And then that cuts way down on how much I hear from people, because like around March break, March break in the week before, I was at Disney myself, and I had 40 families traveling. So I can't be their go-to person every time they're wondering, where can I find this kind of ice cream? And you'd be questions people would ask if you open yourself up to that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
no, that's another no. I don't say I'm available anytime, because I'm not.
No, that's good. Good advice. Okay. Oh, okay. Here's another comment. So I don't know if we have any more questions, but love the tip to focus on what you can do instead of what you can't do. Yeah, that was a great tip. So thank you. All right, I'm going to bring all my guests back on. I'm going to jump off for a moment to allow you guys just to say your goodbyes. And I just want to thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate you jumping on. I know that you're no people, so the fact that you said yes makes me feel so good. Okay, so I'm going to bring Leanne back on. You guys can all say bye to everyone, and then I'll jump back on for a final farewell. Hold on.
I guess we're saying bye.
I'll take
Just talk amongst ourselves.
I'll take my first. Ladies, it's been a great morning with all of you. And if anybody out there is looking for leadership or communications training for their business, then I hope you give me a call. So have a great day.
Okay.
I'm back. That was awkward.
I guess I'll go next. So I'll say goodbye. Oh, there's Haley. I'll say goodbye. And for all of you that are watching, and for those of us that are in this together today, if you need your home life, that is exactly what we do at the Honeydews. We do your honeydew list so you don't have to. So that, that cleaning that you feel needs to get done, let us take that off your plate for you.
Awesome. Then you'll have time to say yes a little
Bye.
more. Do the things that matter. Thanks, Leanne.
That's right. Thanks, Haley.
All right. Kelly.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much, Haley, for the opportunity to, to share with your viewers on the power of saying no. Again, I am specifically helping people pleasers confidently communicate with others, because being a recovered people pleaser myself, I know that I felt like a victim, and I felt for so many years that I felt devalued and unheard, like my voice didn't matter. And I'm such a heart-centered person, sensitive soul, and I'm helping people just like my old self stand into their personal power and create some magic in their life through assertiveness skills, mindset, and putting those things into action.
Love it.
Thank you so much. It was lovely having this discussion with everyone, and we'll see you on Facebook.
Yeah. So the other thing is, Kelly has a show called Coffee and Confidence.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll put the link up for that. If anybody is struggling with assertiveness, as an entrepreneur, it's definitely a really good skill to have so that you can, prioritize and move your business forward and not be saying yes to everything. So we'll throw that in the comments. And if you want more of Kelly, you can certainly join her group and watch that show weekly. All right. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Amy. Thank you, Amy, for coming. Much appreciated. Lots of great tips.
Thank you for having me. And of course, if you're looking for a Disney vacation of pretty much any kind, I do Disney cruises, Disney World, Disneyland, California. We can't do the international Disney parks just yet. And I also do the planning for Sandals and Beaches Resorts. You can find me at amy@clickthemouse.ca, or my Facebook page. You can just search Amy at Click the Mouse and it'll pop up. And it's been lots of fun this morning. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Marketing Tip Monday. We will see you next week, and I hope you have a great day.